today. Thank you for being here, Kevin McCullough. So glad to be with you. And forgive me for being out yesterday. It was one of those days where I had made it all the way into the office. I was sitting here just plowing through show prep, getting ready to spend time with you, and I felt literally like I had just been taken by a fever of some sort. I just the whole body started to ache. My head felt like it was going to explode. I felt physically ill in my stomach, and I called producer Brent and program director Jim Stanley. I said, "Hey guys, I need to do something else today." And I went home and for the next 6 or 7 hours laid out flat on my bed. I don't even think I moved. And somewhere in the early evening, my wife came in, and the lovely bride kissed me on the forehead and said, "How you feeling?" And I drank some water, and it started to feel like me again. So I don't know what any of that was, but I'm glad it's gone 24 hours later. But thank you for Fred Jackson and for the staff at AFA for making this happen. I always appreciate it when Fred's able to fill in, because as the voice of the One News Now editorial department here at the American Family Association, he's in the loop on everything that you need to know in the middle of the day, and I am glad that he was able to be with you. And, of course, earlier this week he was there. I'm sorry? Oh, you ran a best of. Okay, I thought, well, I still like Fred. And he did fill in for me earlier in the week. So, Fred, if you're listening, I know you're chuckling. You know, that's as demonstrative as you get. You let a little chuckle out. But thank you for doing that for me. I'm deeply appreciative. 7 minutes past the hour. The phone number is 888-589-8840. Well, it happened yesterday, friends. A lot of people thought it never would, but it seems like it has. The question is it real? The president sitting down last night with Chuck Todd of NBC News, the White House reporter for NBC News, to say that he was sorry about what had happened. I want to let you hear the exact words of the conversation so that we can discuss. Because what I want to know is, it's a very simple question today. To you, what defines an apology? How do you define an apology? Someone offends you, and they come and they tell you some things, and you how do you receive an apology? How is an apology given? And did what we got last night from the president seem to equal that? Let's go to the videotape.
It's probably the most quoted thing or re-quoted thing you have said in your presidency. If you like your health care plan, you can keep it. You said it a lot during the run-up. At this point, though, it's obviously something, a promise that has not been able to be kept. Just today, the Denver Post reported 250,000 people in Colorado are seeing health insurance policies canceled. Some of those people like those policies, and they can't keep it. What happened?
Well, first of all, I meant what I said. And we worked hard to try to make sure that we implemented it properly. But obviously we didn't do a good enough job, and I regret that. We're talking about 5% of the population who are in what's called the individual market. They're out there buying health insurance on their own. A lot of these plans are subpar plans, and we put in a clause in the law that said if you had one of those plans, even if it was subpar when the law was passed, you could keep it. But there's enough churn in the market that folks since then have bought subpar plans, and now that may be all they can afford. So even though it only affects a small amount of the population, you know, it means a lot to them, obviously, when they get this letter canceled.
All right, so I want to talk about that for a second, because that's the first, he gets this direct question, Mr. President, this is how it came across. This is what we're dealing with. This is the understanding that people had going into this. It was oft repeated by you on the campaign. Did it actually matter? Did it make sense for you to say that? Do you have anything to say to the American people? And what's the first rhetorical tool that the president uses here? Friends, this is very important. I want you to pay very close attention to what the president does by way of dealing with this subject when asked about it by Chuck Todd. Now, remind you, the whole thing was a mea culpa, because the rollout of this stuff has been so bad, it's been so botched. Even the country music artists the other night were parodying it on the television. But what we're talking about here is an understanding that needs to be held, that there were promises given that weren't followed through on. There were promises assured that didn't occur. And at the end of the day, what we are experiencing is a very bad outcome to promises that weren't kept. So Chuck Todd asks him, this was the most repeated thing you said on the campaign trail. This is the outcome, and what do you have to say about it? And what's the first tack of response to this issue? Well, the plans are subpar. They don't meet the par. That's what subpar means. It's less than par. It's not up to par. I guess in golf it'd be over par, but it's an odd expression, I'll admit. So anyway, but falling short of what par is to be is the way to understand that. And if they wanted to keep these subpar programs, we did promise that they could keep them. And then what does he do? But it's a very tiny percent of the people. It's just tiny percent of the people. Now, when you're offering an apology for something that you did, let's say a man and a wife are having a marital dispute. Not Brent and his beauty, because they would never have marital disputes. But let's take the Kevin McCullough household for a second. Not my producers. Let's take so me and the lovely bride. I promise her for 3 weeks I'm gonna mow the grass. 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 And I come back and I do 3 zigzags in the middle of the front lawn, and then I say, "See, I mowed the grass." No, you didn't mow the grass. Look at all that grass that's out there. This is somewhat what it's like. There's this, but let me tell you all the reasons why. See, you wanted me to mow the whole grass, but I think, the way I think is it's just much better if I just do this little tiny section of the grass, because what I think matters. Now, is she going to believe me if the next words out of my mouth are, "So I'm sorry that I didn't mow the grass"? Does that make sense? Does it? How does an apology work? What's the constitution of an apology? Is there remorse, or is there justification, or is there both? Because I've heard a lot of crummy apologies that seem to have a lot of justifications in them. And when you're asked about this from the very beginning, and the next thing that comes out of his mouth, well, it's just a tiny little, it's very, very tiny, holding his finger up on the script, very tiny little piece of people that were ultimately impacted this way. Anyway, he continued.
And, I am deeply concerned about it, and I've assigned my team to see what can we do to close some of the holes and gaps in the law, because my intention is to lift up and make sure the insurance that people buy is effective, that it's actually going to deliver what they think they're purchasing. Because what we know is before the law was passed, a lot of these plans, people thought they had insurance coverage, and then they'd find out that they had huge out-of-pocket expenses, or women were being charged more than men. If you had pre-existing conditions, you just couldn't get it at all. And we are proud of the consumer protections we've put into place. On the other hand, we also want to make sure that nobody is put in a position where their plan's been canceled. They can't afford a better plan, even though they'd like to have a better plan. And so we're going to have to work hard to make sure that those folks are taken care of.
All right, but see, here's the mathematical problem with that. And friends, this drives me nuts. This drives me nuts. If you say that you want to have a better plan that you are gifting to the American people, whether they want it or not, and you're going to say that price is not going to be part of the equation, then something's not going to measure up. You cannot say, I want to feed everyone in my household filet mignon steak, baked potato, caviar, champagne, catered pastries, everything, every single meal of every day of their life, and say, but I'm only going to pay the same amount as if I ordered a Big Mac for each person. Now, you can say that. You can go out and say that. You can tell people that that's what you're going to make happen. You can create all kinds of weird opportunities where that is possible. But at the end of the day, friend, it's not going to be true. Why? Because there's a mathematical cost to everything. So every time a politician says, I'm going to give you something, or we're going to make sure that you have this, that's the same way of saying we're going to give it to you. We're going to make sure that you have this. Actually saying we're going to make sure that you have this is a little more bullying than saying that we're going to, that we're going to give you something. But to make sure that you have it means I'm going to make sure that you get this. But to do that and to pretend that there is no cost associated with it in any way is just zapping math from the equation completely, which maybe this administration is just not all that good in to begin with, because jobs and economy and all the rest of it. We don't seem it doesn't seem to be doing well in the math department anyway. And the question that never gets answered is, okay, Mr. President, you say that you're going to insist upon everyone getting these good plans. But you also said that they could have the plans that they liked if they wanted them. We still haven't addressed that apology yet. I haven't heard that come out yet. You're saying that if they want to get into these better plans, they can. You're also saying that they can do it for less money. I've done this on every piece of media I've been on in the last 3 weeks. I haven't found one person that signed up for the Obamacare plan that is paying less money now than they were before they went into the exchange. And here's a big headline from one of the papers today. Most uninsured people are ignoring the exchanges. Meaning what? They're going to risk getting fined? How are you going to go find someone making $20,000 a year to support their family? I mean, it's like economics has no bearing on this whatsoever. But we're going to insist that you have a good plan. We're going to make sure that you have a good plan. Is that even fair? Does that even work? And secondly, why are you telling me all of this now? Most of this is what you've been saying on the campaign trail for the last however long. But why did you call this special interview together and supposedly a mea culpa to the American people? And why are you justifying all of this? I can't quite get my head around that. What constitutes an apology to you? 888-589-8840. 888-589-8840. How do you constitute an apology? What are the ingredients of an apology to you? If your spouse or kid or somebody hurt your feelings, they come to you, they did something they weren't supposed to do, and they say they're sorry. When do you consider that a real apology? Is it ever associated with the difference in actions that follow the apology? Or is it just the words? Or is it the attitude given when the words are given? How does let's understand what it is to truly apologize today. I want to try to capture, because that's a biblical idea, but I think we need to understand it with eyes wide open here. All right, so lastly, he goes into this last section.
Do you feel like you owe these folks an apology for misleading them, even if you didn't intentionally do it, but at this point, they feel misled, and you've seen the anger that's out there.
I regret very much that what we intended to do, which is to make sure that everybody is moving into better plans because they want them as opposed to because they're forced into it, that we weren't as clear as we needed to be in terms of the changes that were taking place.
All right, stop. I got it. Sorry. How are you saying that you were doing it, first of all, by their choice and not because they're forced into it? The law is forcing people into it. That's the point, Mr. President. The law has a gun to their head saying this is what you will do. So how does... Help me understand. 888-589-8840. What am I missing? Where did I get it wrong here? I really want to know. 888-589-8840. I'm Kevin McCullough. This is AFA Today on AFR Talk.